welcome into the Washington football team pre-draft special. I'm Julie Donaldson. Over the next half hour, we're going to be talking about all the possibilities that Washington could do with a number 19 overall pick. And joining us will be head coach Ron Rivera himself, talking about what prep work has gone into this year's draft. We'll also get some stories for our alumni about their draft night. But joining me now is none other than one of our favorite alumni, Fred Smoot, and as well our play-by-play man, Bram Weinstein. Gentlemen, a lot of different options where Washington could go compared to last year when they had the number 2 overall pick. And we knew going in it was going to be Chase Young, right?
Yeah, easy.
A little bit different this year, but before we get into what Washington's going to do, let's talk about the draft overall. Number 1, we're assuming it's going to be, Trevor Lawrence going to Jacksonville?
I think he's been the number 1 pick in this draft for the last
2 years. Yeah.
Like, ever since he came out as a freshman, we knew who this kid was. And it's so funny, him and Justin Fields played against each other in Georgia in high school, and now they're finna go into the first 3 picks of the draft.
Well, okay, you talk about the first 3. Yeah. Jets have number 2, and because of a big move and a big trade that was made between San Fran, Miami, and the Eagles, San Fran has 3. So are we assuming, Bram, that it's 3 quarterbacks going right off the bat?
Yeah, and in fact, it's never happened before. I think it might be 4. You know, if someone's willing to pay the price with Atlanta, because Atlanta, after what San Francisco did, they said, we're open for business now, right? If you're willing to give up 3 first-round picks and you want the 4th best quarterback on the board, we don't know who number 3 is at this point, they're open for business. So I think we could have an unprecedented draft, 4 quarterbacks taken in the top 4.
Which would kind of throw all the different skill position guys that would anticipate maybe being a little bit higher falling in the draft. So when do we anticipate that position player coming, and probably who is it, Fred? Are you going to give me some love with this?
Yeah, I'm going to give you some Florida love on this. I told you this a year ago. Kyle Pitts is unbelievable. I think he's a taller, faster, stronger Shannon Sharp. That says it all. Shannon Sharp is a Hall of Famer. This guy can change the way you play offense. He's a tight end that can play inside, outside, can actually play slot receiver. He runs a 4-4. I don't know who you match up with him. Do you match a linebacker up? That's going to be too slow. A safety going to be too slow. A corner going to be too small. I think he's the first non-quarterback off the board.
This draft is really interesting. I agree with you. I think it's Kyle Pitts too, whether it's Atlanta who takes him or someone who trades up to 5.
Cincinnati.
Right, or 5, right? Wherever it goes, if quarterback goes 4 to go to 5. Here's what's really, really interesting this year. And I think part of this is the Chiefs are the team to chase, the Buccaneers are the team to chase. They have all this offense, right? So people are gearing up and paying a price to get offensive players. When have you ever heard, and this is very possible this year, the best defensive player on the board may go 8, 9, 10, 4 or 5 quarterbacks, couple of offensive tackles, clearly that receiver from LSU, definitely Kyle Pitts. The best defensive player on the board may not go till 9 or 10, which is the Cowboys.
Right.
So there's the bad news in a situation like this. They're not going to get Chase Young, but they might get best defensive player on the board at a need.
And that could be Micah Parsons, the Penn State linebacker. He's a faster, stronger version of Devin White. We seen what he did in the Super Bowl. He's a guy that can play middle linebacker. He can rush the pass on 3rd down. So he's a guy, but when I see Cowboys, I see secondary problems. I see them either trading down, taking Pat Surtain, either maybe J.C. Horn, both prodigies from their dads. So I can see them going on the back end when it comes to
Don't say Parsons too loud, because as he slips down the board, I look at these guys and I go, you want to see this defense ramp up to 11? Go get a guy like that behind this line.
All right, well, you mentioned at 10 you have the Cowboys, and then you have at 11 the Giants, and then at 12 you have the Eagles. So the NFC East is kind of bunched right together in those spots, and it depends on how much Washington would be willing to trade away. Should they be moving up for any player? Should someone be worth for that? But look, you look at the moves that those teams in the NFC East did in the offseason. The Giants brought in Kenny Galladay. The Cowboys, they signed Dak Prescott to a big deal. The Eagles traded it away, Carson Wentz. Do you think that there could be enough moves made for them to possibly dethrone what Washington is doing?
I wouldn't say dethrone, but yes, when they go out and sign a Galladay in New York, knowing they need wide receivers, don't forget they signed John Ross. He's going to be one of those players that's going to actually live up to his billing as a first-round pick. So you look at what the Eagles are doing and what they're doing with their roster, we still, to me, have the most well-rounded roster. Because you look at us in the draft, we could either go offensive lineman in the first round or we can go linebacker. We don't have many openings for needs. So that's what we did during the offseason this year. We brought in the right free agents instead of the best free agents.
Who do you think Washington goes for at 19? You mentioned linebacker, you mentioned offensive line.
I just think it's linebacker. When I look at this team and my head coach is an ex-linebacker, when I look at this team and my defensive coordinator is a linebacker, and they look at their defense and say, that's where we need to get better at. And then I see Notre Dame. I might butcher this name, but I butcher a lot of names. Jeremiah Kamara. I'm going to leave his middle name out of it. But he reminds me of Thomas Davis coming out of college, because Thomas Davis was a fast safety that could grow into a linebacker. This is the same thing this kid can do. He's a 212, 15 pounds, so you might have to put 10, 15 pounds on him, but you can do that through the offseason program. But my pick of the draft, to me, at 19, if they can get Zaven Collins, and when I say Zaven Collins, a lot of people ain't gonna know this name, but he's 6'4", 255 pounds, 4'40" from Tulsa University. He can do it all. On first down, he can play middle linebacker. On second down, he can cover the best inside person they have. And on he can put his hand in the dirt and rush the passer. I think he's the Swiss Army knife of this linebacking core, and he's a guy that I know a team like New England would love to get their hands on because he can do so much. Zaven Collins is my pick, but if we have to go old tackle, Virginia Tech and De La Salle probably be where we go if he falls in our lap.
Zaven Collins, a little bit like a Luke Kuechly?
He's bigger, faster than a Luke Kuechly. He's very freakish. Like last year we drafted Chase Young. He's a very freakish player. Tall, fast, can set the edge, can do a lot of things a lot of people can't. Zaven Collins is the same. He just plays on the second level. He can do a lot. You gotta realize this guy had 8 sacks and had 4 interceptions. 2 of those interceptions went 60+ yards to the house. He's an athlete among athletes.
And Coach has said he would like to find a Luke Kuechly, as they did draft him in Carolina as well. Bram, where do you think some names that Washington could go at 19?
I love Zaven Collins. I don't think he's going to be available. It seems that the Giants feel that he's going to be pretty much earmarked there. So the hope would be he would fall. If for some reason, I can't see this either, if Micah Parsons is somewhere even in the realm of 14, 15 because he falls that way, I think that's where Washington might consider a mild move up to try to get someone like him. I like that. And then I've been earmarking tackle here for months. They could have gone on the market, they didn't. The good news for them is if they decide to go elsewhere, there are people like Villanueva from Pittsburgh who are still available, so they could bridge that position. But I've been looking at Christian Darrisaw for a long time for Virginia Tech. He feels like the right fit here. Again, there feels like there's a lot of options, and if the draft breaks in an odd way where Zaven Collins or Micah Parsons somehow fall for whatever reason, I think they're getting a gift like put into their lap.
Everybody wants to know about quarterback.
Yeah.
Do you see them taking a QB in this draft potentially later,
Yes.
or moving? Yeah, okay, go.
100%. Yes. I don't buy into the pay the high price to get Trey Lance thing. If that's what ends up happening, I'll be wrong. I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to move up in that way, and they're not going to be in position to get him. He's probably going to go number 4 after all of this, which is going to be, you saw what San Francisco paid to get him. 3 first-round picks to get the number 3 pick. What's Atlanta asking for, right? I don't think Ron Rivera and company have said out loud they don't want to do something like that. When we get into day 2, I think that's where a quarterback gets selected. And the 2 names that I'm watching very closely are Florida's Kyle Trask and Stanford's Davis Mills, who has not a lot of experience, but a huge arm and what looks to be a huge ceiling. And to your point where Fitzpatrick is here and he can kind of bridge quarterback, and he's done this before with mentoring young quarterbacks. He just did it in Miami. He's done it in other places. It's a possibility that they take a chance on him and he sits and watches and learns, and in 2022 we have a different conversation.
And let me add a couple of names to their quarterback. Jamie Newman, who actually played at Wake Forest, transferred to Georgia, never played at Georgia. He has a lot of Russell Wilson in him. He's a bigger version of Russell Wilson. He's fast, he's very smart, he's intellectual. He can beat you from the pocket, he can beat you outside the pocket. So I could keep Jamie Newman in that group. So like you, second, third, fourth day, yes, I can see us getting a quarterback. Somebody that I can see as a project, somebody that he can build up, somebody that Fitzmagic can rub off on and can teach.
And you know, for all the attention that's put on quarterbacks going potentially 1, 2, 3, and as you say, maybe even 4, there are definitely QBs that you could hit on later in the draft. I think time has told us that over and over again. Now, when we come back, we're going to hear from the head coach himself, Ron Rivera. How has he been preparing for the 2021 draft, and what moves, what players could he potentially be looking at 19? Washington football team pre-draft special presented by Bud Light. welcome back into the Washington football team pre-draft special. We are gearing up for what should be a very exciting draft as Washington has the 19th overall pick, but which players would they be targeting and could there be moves? No better man to get to the bottom of that with than the head coach, Ron Rivera. Coach, glad to have you join us. You are all prepared to tell us exactly what Washington's doing at 19, correct?
Absolutely. You know, the biggest thing though, Julie, is the thing that we have to do more than anything else is we have to react to what happens in front of us.
That's the big difference. Last year at number 2, you pretty much knew it was going to be a lock to get Chase Young. The work was all done for you. This year it's a little bit different at 19. A lot of different pieces could fall. How do you then prepare, depending on whichever way things may go ahead of you and moves and trades on that night?
That's exactly it, is what's going to happen in front of us is going to dictate it, because the thing that we've got to do is we've got to try and calculate who's going, where they're going, and then what's going to be available for us.
Best player available or going for need? That's always the big question heading into it, right?
Yes, because, you know, to me, I do think we have a few needs that outweigh the rest. And looking at it and feeling it about it that way, you know, we've got to really take a nice long look and dive even deeper into some of these guys' backgrounds because of that, and hopefully the right guys available.
You know, last year you had 8 players drafted, but of course that first round pick was kind of the easy one. But you were doing this coming in fresh new into the team and basically by yourself. Now you have Martin Mayhew and Marty Herney and a whole football staff to kind of help you out. How much going into this draft are they helping, and how does it work with so many different great minds and experience in one room?
Well, you know, the neat thing about Julie is we do have a lot of experienced guys working with us, and really like the format and the way it's been set up. You know, our area scouts have done a great job collecting information, bringing their opinions to us, lining up the guys in order so we can start looking at them. And then, you know, Marty, Eric Stokes, Tim Gribble have really done a great job of now mapping it out, and mapping it out for me and the coaches, as opposed to, you know, hey, here's a list, go look at them. It's like, hey, this is what we see, this is why we see these in these guys. So you're getting a little bit more of a deeper evaluation before you get started as a coach, trying to find the guys that fit.
Have you been in that situation before where maybe something happens you don't anticipate, and the plan you went in with, you say, wait a second, we need to adjust?
You know, one year when I was in Carolina, you know, we were looking for wide receivers, and some things happened very quickly, and next thing you know, we're looking at the next best position. We had another one where our cornerback situation changed very quickly just before the draft. We lost some guys in free agency, and we had to pick 3 corners that year to try and fill the need. So things that happen from other people or things that happen to you are going to affect the way you approach it.
Yeah, I know you're not going to tell us who you're taking at 19, and I know you're not going to tell us if you decide to go for a quarterback. So without tipping your hat, though, there's a lot of rumors that are out there on what we are doing, what moves we may make, what we may trade away to move up for. How much attention are you paying to those mock drafts?
The thing that I always look at in those mock drafts are what's going to happen in front of us more than anything else. What people say, you know, that we're going to do, that's their opinion. You know, unless myself, Martin, or Marty are the ones talking, it doesn't matter. What matters to me is what people are projecting for those first 18. That's more important than what people actually pick for us.
And last year, everything was virtual. We were kind of uncertain with saying, oh wait, you can't travel to teams to look at pro days. So it really changed the way you kind of approach things. This year, how did last year kind of prepare you for this year being kind of, I think, is it like a hybrid? It's like semi-virtual kind of a deal?
It is. It's semi-virtual. Most of the player interviews, in fact, all the player interviews that we do have been virtual. So that's just kind of a, you know, but we've adapted to it and it's become second nature. The nice thing about it is you get to spend a full hour, and you get to spend a full hour minimum or maximum 5 times. So you can spread that out. You can have more than one coach visit with them. You can have more than one scout or GM or you know, assistant, personnel director look at them. So you get a lot of opportunities to really know and dive into these players. The nice thing about being in person is when we're doing our readings, you get to see how adamant scouts are about players or coaches, how strongly they feel about them. You can tell by their body language now, and not just listening to their voice. So I prefer that because I think you get more out of being in person.
You know, we hear all these stories about some of the crazy questions players get asked. Are there a certain line of questions you can tell us that maybe either you ask the guys that you're looking for something maybe off color, or maybe just throughout the process of what you've heard? Because I know you don't want to reveal too much.
Well, I do know that there are some crazy questions, some outlandish ones, but most of it, to me, has always been the answers. We had asked a player one time, how did he feel about press coverage? And he said, I'm not worried about the media. And we all just kind of chuckled about it a little bit. So, sometimes it's how they interpret what you're asking them. I've seen guys, I've had guys say, why did you wear what you're wearing? And the answer was, well, it kind of fits my style. And then all of a sudden the whole discussion came, well, what really is your style? And a lot of those questions initially are really to get them off of their script. And so we do start with, hey, I like the shoes, man. Where'd you get shoes? And because you're trying to get them to not do the stuff that they rehearsed. You want the real player. And so that's why I think the interviews and asking the right questions are important.
Coach, wasn't too long ago you went through this process yourself.
Yes.
Do you want to share your draft day story?
Mine was well, back in the day, it was the 12-round draft. It was done in one day. And it started at basically what was 5 in the morning West Coast time, and it makes for a very long day. I could tell you that much, because the first round back then I think was 20 minutes. It dragged on, and then getting to the second round I think went down to 15, I think it was. So that made for an even longer day. And I can just remember finally being picked, the 44th player in the second round, just how relieved it was, that it was over, and I was going to Chicago. It was an interesting time.
And a great career playing as well as now coaching. So we're glad to have you here, now being the one that will help dreams be realized coming up. Best of luck to you. We are looking forward to the roster that you are building heading into 2021. And as you share your story, when we come back here, we're going to get some of our alumni's draft day stories. Keep it right here on the Washington Football Team pre-draft special. Washington Football Team pre-draft special presented by Bud Light. Hello and welcome back into the Washington Football pre-draft special. So look, when it comes to draft night, all the hard work, the preparation, the sweat, the tears, it pays off and dreams are realized. I'm Julie Donaldson, and joining us to share one of his stories would be Fred Smoot, Bram Weinsteiner, play-by-play guy as well. Fred, what was that night like?
It's hard to put in words, because you dream for 20 plus years. You go to sleep every night with this on your mind, waiting on that day, and I call it like the day of tears, because those are the happiest tears that you ever could do. The dreams become reality. I remember at my draft day party, we sit there, and every name kind of sticks you in the heart, because you're waiting on your name to be called. Once my name was called by Washington, me, my mom, we got up and we kind of huddled up. It looked like, and kind of got head to head and kind of cried. It was like a big relief.
I remember his first conference call, actually. I was covering the team, and what we learned about Fred very quickly was us Northerners don't speak Mississippi that well, but he does have the timing of Richard Pryor. So it was like this precursor of what we were getting coming to Washington was, we were gonna laugh, we just weren't sure we were gonna understand the joke.
Smoot smack, as they call it. And the rest was history. But what about some other alumni draft night stories? Well, here you go.
Well, this year it's a virtual draft. It's always been a virtual draft for me, because I knew I wasn't going on the day one or day two. But it was a great experience. It was just happy to actually have a chance to get your name called on TV to get drafted. That was, back in the day we always watched the draft and just see the later round guys and they start picking anybody. That's what we think. But it was just happy just to be in that race to be drafted.
That's the draft experience for young prospect coming out. It's the best feeling in the world. For me, myself, coming out of the University of Texas, so much tradition, and guys that were drafted very high. I kind of set the bar for myself. I wanted to go in the first round. I felt like I had the capabilities, and then when I got that call from Washington, it was a dream come true. I couldn't believe it. Talked to Dan Snyder himself, and everybody in the organization. The plane came down, picked me up from New York. I mean, it was a whole, red carpet experience.
I think the year before Fred was drafted, which is the year that Washington had the second and third overall pick in the draft, extremely unusual. And not unlike drafting Chase Young a year ago, LeVar Arrington kind of came into the league with the similar type of hype, freakish type of plays. You think you're getting this all-world, put him in the Hall of Fame type of player, and then they get the best tackle on the board with Chris Samuels. It filled two immediate needs, and there was so much hope attached to both of those players immediately, not only because of their prowess, but because I think this fan base had started to have this rekindling of, okay, here we go, and that was a really memorable night.
Yeah,
and we're looking forward to what Washington does do. Coach wasn't going to tell us, of course, we know he wasn't.
He's not going to share the secrets right now.
All right, we shall wait and see when draft night does take place. Thanks for joining us on our Washington football team pre-draft special. For Fred Smoot and Bram Weinstein, I'm Julie Donaldson. We will see you on draft night.